Your cucumber plants might already be in trouble. Even if they look fine, yellow leaves, wilting vines, flowers and no fruit, these are all early warning signs, and most gardeners don't even realize that they're causing the problems themselves. So stick with me for just a few minutes, because I'm going to show you 5 mistakes that quietly destroy your cucumber harvest and how to fix each one fast. This is a mistake that ruins more cucumber plants than anything else, and that's watering. Cucumbers are 95% water, so they're very incredibly thirsty, but they're also picky about how they get their water. The big problem here is inconsistency. Letting them get too dry and then keeping them too wet, they both cause yellow, wilted leaves. Here's how to tell the difference between underwatering and overwatering in 2 seconds. If the leaves feel dry and brittle, the plant is stressed and needs a drink. Now, if the leaves feel soft and limp, even if the soil is soggy, you have overwatered. And overwatering is far more dangerous. But when the soil is consistently saturated, the roots, they cannot breathe. They begin to rot, killing that plant. The fix is all about watering consistency. First, never water soil that's already damp. That should be a given. Stick your finger in the edge into the soil and feel if it's moist. Then simply hold off watering if it is. When you water it deeply at the base of the plant. A deep soaking every few days encourages those roots, and it encourages them to grow deep. And I always water in the morning. That way the wet foliage overnight, that is an open invitation for fungal disease like powdery mildew. And if you want more about powdery mildew, I'm going to link a video in the description below where I go all in depth on the powdery mildew. So you get your watering right, you've solved more than half of your likely problems. So what if your biggest threat to your cucumbers is also the smallest? Let's talk about tiny pests that can kill your plants before you even know what happened. Underestimating these can make a huge mistake in your garden. The number one villain is the cucumber beetle. These small striped or spotted bugs chew holes in the leaves, but the real threat is the spreading of bacterial wilt. A single bite from an infected beetle can transfer that disease, causing your entire plant to suddenly wilt and die, and there is no hope of recovery. Prevention is your only option here. Another sneaky threat is aphids. These sap-sucking little insects hide under the leaves, and they cause them to curl and they turn yellow. They also leave behind this sticky waste called honeydew, which actually attracts sooty mold. And sooty mold can spread viruses like cucumber mosaic virus. So what is the solution here? Simple. The solution is a proactive inspection. Twice a week, flip over those leaves and check underneath them for aphids or other pests. If you see a cucumber beetle, knock them off into some soapy water, and a strong spray of water can usually dislodge the aphids. For larger infestations, you want to use neem oil or insecticidal soap. Use it in the evening in order to keep from harming the bees that you have. Is that white film on your leaves just dust? Don't make this mistake. Ignoring it even a week can cost you your entire plant. Misdiagnosing diseases, it is a common pitfall. That white dusty coating is likely powdery mildew, a fungus that thrives in humidity and spreads fast. It weakens the plant by blocking that sunlight, which means smaller harvest. It's often confused with downy mildew, which causes yellow spots on the tops of the leaves and a gray fuzzy mold on the bottom underside of the leaf. Powdery mildew can even spread in dry weather, while downy mildew, it really loves those wet leaves. Prevention actually starts with good airflow, proper spacing, and properly training those plants to go up a trellis. As I mentioned before, always water at the base of the plant. If you do spot powdery mildew, act fast. Snip off those infected leaves, and for a home remedy, spray that plant with a mix of 1 part milk and 9 parts water. Or have you ever battled any of these exact problems in your garden? Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I'm always sharing gardening advice just like this, and I want to help you get a better harvest. And hey, let me know down in the comments which one of these mistakes that you've made this year or in years past. So if your plant is huge and green but has no fruit, you might be feeding it the exact opposite of what it needs. You think you're nailing it when you've got this big lush green plant, but you've got 0 cucumbers to show for it. The culprit is a nutrient imbalance, usually too much nitrogen. Gardeners often use a high nitrogen all-purpose fertilizer all season long, which tells the plant to focus on leafy growth instead of producing those flowers, and those flowers, you need those for fruit. You'll end up with a beautiful, huge, beautiful green, unproductive vine. The solution is to change that fertilizer strategy as soon as that plant starts to flower. As soon as you start seeing those first blooms, switch that fertilizer. Switch it to a lower in nitrogen but higher in phosphorus and potassium. The phosphorus will boost that flower production, and the potassium, it is really critical and crucial for that development of the fruit. Look for a vegetable or tomato fertilizer somewhere in the ratio of a 5-10-10 works really good. Organic options like compost, bone meal for phosphorus, or a liquid kelp for potassium, it's also an excellent choice. Just remember the rule: nitrogen for leaves, potassium for fruit, and phosphorus for the overall plant health. This is the most heartbreaking problem. Tons of flowers, but those tiny baby cucumbers, they turn yellow and fall off. Well, the good news, the fix is easy, and you get to play bee for a day. This happens from the lack of pollination. Cucumbers have male and female flowers. The female has a tiny cucumber-shaped ovary at its base, while the male just has a stem. Pollen must move from that male flower to the female flower in order to grow into a cucumber. Don't worry, the first flowers are always male. This is normal. If you have both types and no fruit, your pollinators are not doing the job. So the solution, you have to be the bee. Hand pollinate is simple and effective. In the morning when the flowers are open, use a small paintbrush or a Q-tip or something like that to collect the pollen from the center of that male flower. Then gently grab and dab the pollen into the center of that female flower. So within days you're going to see tiny little cucumbers start to grow. Now for a long-term fix, plant flowers like marigolds nearby to attract more bees to your garden. There is another solution, that is parthenocopic cucumber. Now I'm not going to go into depths on the difference between parthenocopic and regular cucumbers on this video, but I will link a video that kind of explains it just a little bit more. I'll link that down in the description as well. Let's recap the 5 things that can go wrong with cucumbers: improper watering, overlooking pests, misidentifying diseases, creating a nutrient imbalance with too much fertilizer and too much nitrogen, and not solving these pollinating problems. I know it can sound like a lot, but it all connects. Good watering and airflow prevent disease. Checking your plants regularly stops pests before they can actually spread that disease. And feeding the right nutrients at the right time gives you flowers that you can actually then pollinate. So gardening is a journey, and I promise you, I have killed more cucumber plants than I can count on my way to figuring all this out. By avoiding these common mistakes, you're putting yourself back on the fast track to a massive, crunchy, delicious cucumber harvest. So if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. And make sure that you subscribe for more gardening tips. Hit that bell notification to get notified each time that I put out a new video. I am passionate about helping people grow their own food successfully. And like always, keep it growing.